Hello, I'm Billy Moore, and I am coordinating my fourth adventure to Egypt in October 2019. Thank you for viewing this presentation. Egypt has been off the beaten path for many American tourists. I have used my experience of living in Egypt and the three previous tours to ensure that our travelers will experience the best Egypt has to offer. I have called my tour coordinating effort Off the Beaten Path Adventures. I seek adventures that not all will pursue. With Egypt, you will wonder why you put off this exciting destination for so long. On previous Egypt adventures, 70 have traveled with me. I only advertise these trips locally and rely on past participants to recommend the adventure to friends and acquaintances. The October 2018 tour was enjoyed by all, and I'm sure that the next tour will fill. In viewing this presentation, you can select the pause icon if you need more time on a slide. Please let me hear back from you if you would like to participate. Space will be limited. The agency that I work with is Indus Travels. I've worked with them for the tours that I have listed below: China, 2 trips; Peru, 3 trips; Egypt, 3 trips; Iceland, 1 trip. And I plan to have other tours with them in 2019. You can see them listed: Peru, Iceland, Egypt, Nepal. My experience in Egypt, I lived there for 2 years, in 2001 to 2002. I worked with the Egyptian Air Force at Borg El Arab, just west of Alexandria on the North Shore. While there, I visited and explored the pyramids and Cairo numerous times. I made a Nile River cruise there, but I've made 2 since then, so a total of 3 cruises for me. My time in Egypt, I spent driving and exploring the Sinai, found it completely safe. I was there during and after 9/11 and traveled the Sinai and Egypt safely. I've had more than 10 visits to Sharm el Sheikh during my time in Egypt, and 3 or 4 since then. The 3 tours, as I mentioned, produced 70 participants. You can see the trips here. The 2015 trip was a shorter trip, not a shorter trip, but a different trip in that we did not do the river cruise. We took the time to climb Mount Sinai. But in 2017 and 2018, I elected to do the exciting 4-day Nile River cruise. Our tour highlights: first, we'd visit the Nile River on our cruise, and then we'd go to the Sinai and then to Cairo on the final days. For the Nile River cruise, we'll be arriving in Cairo on our flight from JFK, and on the same day we'll transfer to a flight to Luxor and join our boat there for a 4-day tour on the Nile down to Aswan. We'll visit all the sites along the river. We'll go to the Valley of the Kings. We'll see all the temples there along the riverbanks, and there's numerous temples there. In the Sinai, we'll have 4 days at Sharm el Sheikh. It's a resort for much of Europe. We're going down at the beginning of the tourist season. It won't be too crowded at that point. The weather will be ideal. Hope to visit Ras Mohammed National Park while we're there, and take a boat tour over to Tiran Island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. There's a desert dinner planned, and many, many other options. You'll also have the option to climb Mount Sinai if you wish. Uh, for Cairo, we'll certainly see the pyramids at Giza. We'll see the Egyptian Museum, and I'll take you to the Khan el Khalili, which is the old shopping center in Old Cairo. We'll be there 2 or 3 days. Currently, the scheduling is for 2 days in Cairo, but I have tentatively scheduled a 3rd day so that we can take a tour down south of Cairo to see the few other pyramids down there. The tentative schedule looks like what you see here. Basically, from the 9th of October, we depart JFK at 1830, direct to Cairo. We save a day by not having to change flights en route. The total flight is about 10 hours, 10 and a half hours, um, straight into Cairo and then straight down to Luxor. And return to JFK. We'll arrive back in JFK at a reasonable time at 15:25, either on the 20th or the 21st if I get the extra day. Flights up from Norfolk to JFK and return are probably about $300. Some people do drive that. Our transatlantic flight looks like this. It's about 5,500 miles long, and it goes straight to Cairo, as I mentioned before. Egypt Air on a 777-300 extended range, a very comfortable modern aircraft. The seating chart is shown below. In country, we'll have 4 domestic flights. As I mentioned, once we arrive in Cairo, we'll go straight down to Luxor on the first flight. We'll take the riverboat down up the Nile. It'll be into the current, down to Aswan, 4-day trip. And when we depart in Aswan, we'll fly back to Cairo and have a short layover there to get on down to Sharm el-Sheikh on the same day. 4 days in Sharm el-Sheikh and then back to Cairo for 2 or 3 days. Our flight schedule, just for your interest, it might be refined. The Nile River is beautiful. It's the longest river in the world. It flows north from the heart of Africa, and you won't believe the vegetation, the gardens, the farms along the river. A very thin green strip with desert on each side of it. This is our actual river boat. It turns out to be the newest one on the Nile. We've had it for the previous 2 cruises, and I've requested it for the next cruise. The crew is familiar with us and treat us rather well. These are our participants for the 2017 Nile River cruise. I think one person is missing. We had, I think, 20 people. Below the picture, you'll see one of the endorsements from a traveler. I'll have that on this in the next slide. You can pause here if you need to read it. And for the second Nile River cruise in 2018, we had almost twice as many people, 36 in all, to enjoy the Nile River. It was a 4-day cruise from Luxor to Aswan. Again, I have comments below. I have numerous comments that I'll address in a separate publication. Some sites along the river. We'll visit Karnak Temple in Luxor. Quite an impressive structure. It'll take quite a while to explore this. It's massive in size. This is one of the temples near the Valley of the Kings. We'll be visiting the Valley of the Kings, which is a burial site with a lot of tombs that have been discovered in the past few hundred years. Edfu Temple is along the river. Our boat will actually stop and we'll travel over to the temple. Probably walk over. It's going to be close. All the temples are adjacent to. Here's an example of Kamambo. It's right on the river. We pull right up there and go ashore into that temple. Once we travel down the river and visit 3 or 4 or 5 temples, we end up in Aswan, which is an impressive town, as you can see here. This is more a river scene than a look at the botanical gardens, but I'm standing in the botanical gardens in Aswan. You're going to be surprised at the vegetation that's growing in this on this island in this very dry climate. Of course, the river is the lifeline of Egypt, and we're adjacent to the river here. There's a beautiful sand dune across the river from where we are here, and you'll see scenes like this in numerous places along the Nile. The botanical gardens down there, that's going to be a great visit. It's going to be a surprising visit for us when we go down there. Inside Egypt, when we travel down to the Sinai Peninsula, I just wanted to give you a look at where we will be. You can see down at the very south end of the peninsula is Ras Mohammed, and just north of that is the town of Sharm el Sheikh. You can see in the central South Sinai there's St. Catherine's. That's where Mount Sinai is, and some people may elect to take an optional tour up there to climb that mountain. It's not too challenging, but it's quite beautiful. The troubled area in the Sinai is located up to the northeast of the peninsula. It's on the border with the Gaza Strip and Israel. It's a place where they're having trouble, if any, now. Also, would avoid the western desert on the Libyan border, a long ways away from Cairo. Uh, the security that we get from the northern Sinai is separation by mountains, desert, and road access. Uh, Checkpoints are all along the roads everywhere in Egypt just to protect tourists. Protection of tourists is a priority. I might mention that Egypt is a very safe location in the Middle East. Uh, I might say that only one American has been killed by terrorist activity in the past 30 or 40 years. You can't say that about many places in the world. In previous visits, we've stayed north of the town, which was quite inconvenient for getting into town. So this time we've elected to stay near the town. You can see our hotel here. The snorkeling will still be good right off the pier there to swim down that coast in perfectly clear water. Or to travel by taxi to some other location would not be a problem. Sharm el Sheikh is a resort for much of Europe, and it's like for them the distance is like our going down to Mexico for a vacation. The It's a modern tourist city uh, or town, I should say. It has an Arabic flair, of course. That's what we want. And Ras Mohammed at the southern tip is quite exciting for the people that love to snorkel and see exciting scenery. We'll be traveling down there on an optional tour. Probably cost $35 or $40 each to go down there. But we'll also have a boat tour that will take us down there along the water and even go over to Tyran Island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. Here's some snorkeling views. That's my wife Karen there snorkeling near a reef. For those folks that are not into snorkeling, glass bottom boat tour is fabulous. You'll enjoy that. For those that would like to try snorkeling, it's quite an easy sport to participate in. I'm willing to give lessons here for anyone that's interested before we go. And two, we'll get a check out in the pool and in the calm waters of the Gulf of Aqaba or the Red Sea. In Cairo, we'll be staying at this hotel. It's on Tahrir Square. It's just right there by the old museum. You can walk to it. It's near the pyramids, but would take a taxi to get over there, which is part of our deal. We'll be on a bus to go over and visit the pyramids. Also, the Khan el Khalili, the old shopping town, shopping area in Old Cairo, is about 3 miles away. We'll get over there. We'll visit the Great Pyramids, of course, and hopefully have that extra day. We'll see some other pyramids too. So your chance to ride a camel and get a good picture is right here at the pyramids. Here's the old museum. We hope the new museum will be open in 2019 when we get there, but I wouldn't count on it. It might be 2020. It was originally scheduled to be open in 2018, but it didn't make it. The approximate cost is about $2,600 per person with a single supplement you can see there. If you are going single and want a roommate, a compatible roommate, I have been able to coordinate that in the past. For the payment schedule, would expect final payment on the 30th by the 30th of June of 2019, and you have to have trip insurance if you want it within 10 days of making a firm financial commitment to the trip. Um, I would like to hear back from everyone that's interested now so that I can make sure I get sufficient reservations. On the previous trip, where I had 36 people, I actually had about 4 more people that wanted to go but did not notify me in time, and lodging and flight scheduling is quite difficult if you wait too long. So please, you don't have to make a financial commitment, but give me a verbal commitment if you have interest in going on this trip or any others with me. The weather, uh, as I mentioned, October is the beginning of the tourist season. That means the weather is perfect. Uh, no visa requirements that are hard to meet. You just show up at the airport, pay $25. They give you a sticker for your passport, and you're good to go. There's no immunization requirements, and you'll be very pleased with the atmosphere. Gets a little dusty, but generally it'll be blue skies, blue clear skies. Attire is conservative, but you can get by with anything really. I'd say around Cairo you'd want to be more formal than you are down in Luxor or on or I should say on our riverboat cruise or at Sharm el Sheikh. But it's pretty much what you would wear casually around here. Please don't hesitate to call me with any questions you might have. Uh, my phone number is listed here, and I'll be glad to meet with anyone that needs further information, and I'll be supplying information from now until we go on the trip. Thank you for joining the presentation, and please let me know if you're interested, and I'll start to think of reserving a spot for you.